Mike LaFleur at his introductory press conference yesterday, and let's just say he knocked it out of the park. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast platform. Mike LaFleur is officially the Arizona Cardinals head coach. Spoke to the media yesterday. We're going to break it all down. There were some omissions yesterday that I'll discuss in the final segment. Questions going into the next steps still loom, but there is more clarity now than there's been since the firing of Jonathan Gannon a full long month ago. And while there are plenty of questions to where Mike LaFleur is going to be calling the plays, who's the OC going to be, who's the DC going to be, and everything in between, what we need to do is break down what happened yesterday for about an hour. What happened yesterday took an hour. We will not be taking an hour today. So Michael Bidwell does his introduction. There were 10 family members of Mike LaFleur's there, including his big brother, Matt, who's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers with his family. Mike comes up, took some time thanking, his 49ers brethren, his Rams brethren, that when his time with the Jets, went into his family and then started talking about the players. There were about between 10 and 20 guys yesterday, including Mac Wilson, Michael Wilson, Will Johnson, and others. So we'll talk about that in a minute if that's a big deal that more, players weren't there. But by and large, what you want to see from an introductory press conference is not just fluff, not cliche BS, not sounding so politically correct and sound like a politician where it's just like, oh, I just want to say to get smiles and to get out of here as quickly as possible and then get to work. None of that happened. He was very genuine. He's kind of nerdy. You can tell he was born and bred to play and coach football. His dad is a head coach at Central Michigan. When they were growing up, he had some anecdotal stuff about how he used to run around on the field when he was younger. Like, Mike LaFleur is a football nerd. And that's a good thing, especially in this day and age of the offensive minds that he's going to have to compete against to go up the ranks and hopefully bring the Cardinals up the ranks with him. He even said in I think my title card today says prophet. He told this story about a couple different times. One during pandemic where the 49ers, when he was with the 49ers, they played a handful of games at State Farm Stadium because Levi was shut down. And then during the LA fires, they played a game here too. During the fires, they played games here too. And it was like, or a game. And it was like, man, I know this stadium. I know my way around here. He pointed to a corner in the press room where he's like, that's where we were breaking down film for a specific game. And he even said it. I don't know if this is true. Okay. But he said it. So I'm regurgitating it to you. He said about a year ago, while all that was happening, I was like, one day I'm going to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm like, okay, buddy, sure. If that is your Nostradamus in you calling it, great. It's a great anecdote, whatever it may be. He came in, he answered questions. Okay. I will talk about the omissions at the end, but I'm going to, bury the lead talking about Kyler Murray predominantly with the omissions and what they're going to do with the coaching staff. Omissions. And I'll explain more in depth why that was exactly the right thing to do. People will critique media members across the country and, across the globe, not just Arizona, but, throwing up cupcake questions, not asking the hard-hitting stuff. It's not what you do during an introductory press conference. It's just not. That's not what the vessel is for. That's not what the vessel is for. So he deflected a little bit, very passively deflected. And what I took away from it after watching it was he's ready. I don't know if it's going to work, but I know that he's ready. When he was asked, are you going to be calling the plays, just to hear it from his mouth after hearing it from, different reports around the valley, he's like, I'm going to be calling the plays. I can't wait. I think that's like it's like a kid having to eat breakfast before opening Christmas presents on Christmas. It's like, you finish your eggs, Timmy? You finish your milk? You finish your milk? Yes, I can't wait. I'm ready to open presents. That was him as OC for Sean McVay not calling the plays. He's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to get back. I'm ready to prove that it was an exception to the rule and not the rule what happened in East Rutherford with the Jets, with Zach Wilson and a bunch of other quarterbacks and not a lot of skill position players outside of Garrett Williams and Breece Hall. He's ready. He's chomping. He's frothing to be able to get back and have some control over an offense and now a team. So a couple things that you look for that are like, I call them the oh no moments for rookies and second-year players where they're on the field and it's just like, oh no, they're not ready yet kind of thing. The things you're looking for in introductory press conferences, being kind of bashful, uncomfortable, even though that's not like a huge deterrent red flag. Oh no, what bad decision was made? But you can tell when somebody's comfortable in their skin and comfortable for the next role they're about to take. And I was one, and you know this, for those listening to the show, like I was one that was like, he was bottom of the list for me because of all the unknowns. When you sit in there and you have that personality like he did yesterday, he's a quirky dude. He's got a big smile. He's goofy. He's a football nerd. And that's what you want from a first-time offensive-minded head coach. It's what you want. So me going from uncertainty, kind of like, well, maybe Clint. And then I was also in the back of my head, I was also like, well, this was kind of an arranged marriage because Mike LaFleur wanted the Raiders job. The Cardinals wanted Clint Kubiak. Neither of those things happened, and now we're here. It's like, it's not just all rainbows and butterflies. Like, oh, the second they could have interviewed Mike LaFleur, they brought him in for 10 minutes and then hired him. That didn't happen. He was here for 2 full days or a day and a half. No deal was done. You had to wait 5 days for Clint Kubiak to take the Raiders job for this to happen. So it's not like you can all say now that it's like, oh yeah, it's great. Oh yeah, this is what we wanted the entire time. It's not. It's not. That's not good. That's not bad. It's just factual. Otherwise, after being here and interviewing for a day and a half or having a dinner and then interviewing the next day, he would have been a head coach Wednesday of last week of the Arizona Cardinals. That doesn't mean that it's like, oh, nobody wants to be here. Nobody's excited. That's not it at all. It's not a negative thing. It's just a factual thing. So they got past that. They were able to put this all together, inked him to a 5-year deal. A lot of questions still about the coaching staff, the roster, etc., Kyler Murray. But what Mike LaFleur did yesterday was exactly what a first-time head coach without any successful play calling ability, without any successful play calling history. He had spurts with the Jets. I understand. That's exactly what you wanted to see from a dude who's ready to rip with the training wheels of Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan no longer there. He knows this division, 7 years coaching. He knows the Cardinals, 7 years. 14 times. He knows the uphill battle. He said if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth it. So I know a lot of this is whatever. Nothing's changed. So if you're not a Mike LaFleur guy, you're like, we don't know. Obviously, nothing's happened yet, but we don't know. This doesn't change much. If you are a Mike LaFleur guy, it confirms that this guy's ready to rip. This guy's ready for the gig. At this point, confirmation bias is the only thing we have, and we don't like to live in fallacies, but that's just kind of what it is. This is step 1 of 100 going into week 1 of next season. One last thing that I'll mention is he addressed the players a couple times, and obviously, like if some guys were there, you're going to address them. But you saw him, you saw Mac Wilson interviewed after. He's excited. You saw some dudes there, flew in. And I don't know. It's a nice to have, not a need to have on an introductory press conference, during an introductory press conference, but the Cardinals need as much nice as possible at this point. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. What are the questions still? There are some lingering things about a DC rumor from yesterday that came out after the introductory press conference. I'll discuss that next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by TurboTax. It's that time of year, man. But it doesn't have to take over your life with tax season. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online, and they handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert's handling it. And for a limited time, you can have all your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file your taxes last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/lockedon to book your appointment today. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by BetterHelp. This time of year, February can be a lot. Flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and so much talk about relationships. And it can honestly feel like everyone else has it all together in their love life. But here's the truth. Whether you're married, dating, single, or just focusing on you, most people are still figuring it out. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way. It can help you get clear on what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take some pressure off yourself. It's easy to assume everybody else has the perfect relationship, but most people are working through something. And therapy can help you recognize patterns that might be weighing relationships down for you. The biggest thing, it reminds you that you're not behind. You're right on time. BetterHelp is licensed therapists in the U.S., and they do the initial matching for you so you can focus on your goals. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do that at any time. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BETTERHELP.com/lockedon. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. Join the Everydayers Club. Link is in the description. Got people piling in. We had an update on even more exciting things coming into 2026. We had our town hall meeting yesterday. It's going to be even a better year. Going into season 10. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You're not getting rid of me anytime soon, baby. So, questions. Who's going to be DC? And I was going to do a different segment, when I prefaced this yesterday going into today. But I think it's important to kind of reflect a little bit on the last regime and experience going into the start of their tenure here. No experience with the roles that they were in, which is wild. That's wild. I think Jeff Rogers and Clayton Adams were the two elder statesmen going in. Jeff Rogers obviously has moved on. And now, when you look at Mike LaFleur, the OC is going to be a question mark, but it's not the biggest question mark for me. If he's calling the plays, that's kind of it. Obviously, they're going to find an offensive coordinator that can marry in, that can be his role with Sean McVay to him, as the Sean McVay now. But they've got to find a guy who comes in and head coaches the defense, which is not a small task, especially with all the hirings that have happened up until this point. Now, I'm not saying that all of the good ones are taken. I'm not saying that the Cardinals are, up a creek without oars. Is that how you say it? But they've got to get it right, and they've got to get it right soon. And what getting it right means in this instance is not getting the next wunderkind on the defensive side of the ball that you hope can be the next Mike McDonald or something like that. That's not what you're looking for at this point. You're looking for somebody who you can trust, who you can just turn over and be like, hey, all right, your defense, go get him. And I know that's easy for me to say, and I know it's easy to say, just go find somebody. I know how difficult it is, especially with the month-long cycle of hirings that have happened in some form or fashion. You could argue, though, that it's more difficult to find an offensive coordinator. 21 openings. I think there's 5 or 6 left. 21 offensive coordinator openings this cycle. I know a handful of them took head coaching jobs and things like that. It wasn't just they were fired and then they're being replaced. But when you look at the defensive side of the ball, it's like, okay, There's a bunch of young talent there. You're going to go through another draft cycle, another free agency cycle. Hopefully you'll get your guys healthy for week 1, depending on the severity of Walter Nolan and Garrett Williams, towards the end of the 2025 season's injuries. But you need a guy that you can just trust. You need a guy who can just go in, implement a defense, and develop talent. And there was a name that was not leaked. There was a name that was mentioned by Ian Rappaport when talking to his guys on NFL Network after Mike LaFleur was officially sworn in as head coach, and it's Wink Martindale, Don Martindale. Last 2 years, he's been the DC for the Michigan Wolverines college. Will Johnson's DC in 2024. Better known more recently after a stint with the Giants, spent a handful of years with the Ravens. Ravens plus defensive coordinator usually equals pretty good. Ask Mike McDonald. Usually equals pretty good. I know that their defense was bad this year for a large chunk until, the second half of the season. But I did some research. I reached out to people that I trust around that area who've covered the team for a long time. Talked to Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens, one of the best that we've got on this network. Wink Martindale's scheme is blitz. People have told me that what Wink Martindale does makes Brian Flores' blitz package look benign. So when you look at the Cardinals' future and you look at their skill position players that they've got, and you look at the potential on top of maybe a dress rehearsal over the last couple years with Nick Rallis's crazy defensive scheme, maybe that was the JV version of what Wink Martindale can bring in. Maybe. And if you bring a guy in like that, he's 62 years old. He's a wily vet. He could be the Wade Phillips to Mike LaFleur that Sean McVay had. He could be that guy. And it seems so random. We haven't heard that name at all. It seems so random that the name Wink Martindale just popped up after 2 years out of the NFL. So when a guy like Ian Rappaport says something like that, that's not him guessing. That's not him looking at all the eligible guys who could play defensive coordinator that are still left and just throws a dart at one and says that name. So when you have a situation like this and you have a lot of uncertainty, that uncertainty isn't bad. Uncertainty isn't is just boxes that aren't checked yet. It just makes you think, that's interesting. That's interesting. Just imagine the heavy hitters the Cardinals have from the DB group. Imagine all the blitz packages that Wink Martindale to put together. Imagine, Mac Wilson, who did a great job with the exotic blitz packages that Nick Rallis put together. And if you can get Walter Nolan back, and maybe you draft a pass rusher instead of offensive lineman at 3. We'll see. I mean, I'm still saying offensive line all the way. It just starts to formulate a picture where it's like, that's interesting. And then you look at other guys, like Jim Schwartz, who was, exiled from the Cleveland Browns head coaching job that he vocally said he wanted. So we'll see. He's still under contract, I think. So we'll see where that goes. Or it could be Nick Rallis. I think at this point, even if he's only the DC for 2 years, if he wants to coach again in the NFL, I think there could be far worse stops for Wink Martindale than Arizona, especially coupled with the fact that he could just take over the defensive room, be the head coach of that side of the ball, and be a rock for Mike LaFleur to learn from and grow from during his first couple years as head coach in the league. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. There was an omission Yes, it's about the quarterback, Kyler Murray. Discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Home Chef. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner's a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference, and that's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. And it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule, 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. Over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Everything arrives pre-portioned, so there's less prep, less mess, and no wasted food. Save time and money. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off their first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free desserts for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive the free dessert. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business day for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets, and that's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of your payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. And Gusto's automated tools like the offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save me hours every week. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnfl and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of payroll for free at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. One more time. That's gusto.com/lockedonnfl. YouTube channel, subscribe. Yes. Everydayers Club, join. Yes. There's, again, so much to take away from yesterday. One, which isn't surprising, is the passing off of the Kyler Murray future question. And I don't see any other way that should have happened. I'm a huge proponent of asking coaches the right questions and getting the real truth instead of giving them a question that they could just, loft back with a cliched answer. Got to watch the film, got to be better, things like that. But when it comes to an introductory press conference and a quarterback who hasn't played in several months for this team with all but uncertainty, only uncertainty surrounding his future with the team, gets asked, what's the future with Kyler Murray? We've got to talk about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He answered the question, but it was a deflection, and it was an omission of any sort of real momentum one way or the other, because I think that decision's already been made. One way or the other, that decision's already been made. That was probably part of the interview process. What would you like to do? What we are going to do is, are we on the same page here? Things like that. I don't see a world where Kyler Murray comes back. I just don't. And I think it's painfully obvious to where if you wanted to ruffle feathers, you do it then. It's not ruffle feathers. If you know Kyler Murray's coming back, you say it then. And it wouldn't be this bold, huge thing that comes out. Yeah, it would cause buzz and it would be the headline. But to them, that's just SOP. That's what's going to happen next season. If they knew Kyler Murray was coming back and he was going to be the head coach, yikes. Could have been the head coach as of a couple weeks ago. We didn't know if anybody was going to be. It was going to be the quarterback for the Cardinals in 2026. We would know already. I talked about this on the squad show last night. I alluded to this, I think, a couple weeks ago here. There was an old Dane Cook joke that was fantastic from his retaliation double CD where he's like, why don't people who want to break up just, you're sitting on the couch next to each other. You're like, this is bleeping over, isn't it? All right, you go this way, I'll go this way. Cool. That's probably what's going to happen. And all the lists, top available quarterbacks this cycle. Kyler Murray's going to be one on all of them. He's going to be one on all of them. Over Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones popped his Achilles late last season. All over, it's going to be Kyler Murray number one. So for those that think they're only going to get a third-round pick for him, I disagree. Kyler Murray is as valuable as the market will dictate. Say a late first-round pick gets it done, and you don't want to have to worry about it, and the Cardinals say they'll eat some salary, or a conditional a second-round pick, conditional second-round pick that turns into a first rounder if Kyler Murray plays 75% of the snaps, that kind of conversation, in my opinion, is going to be had. So when you had those, even if they're like, let's even say that they don't know for sure yet, okay, because it's early, got plenty of time, got several months, got free agency and everything. Maybe Kyler's still hurt. Who knows? This is how you answer it. This is how you answer it. Defining week 1 on February 3rd isn't smart. Unless you 100% know that he's coming back. And they would know that already. You're not going to lollygag back and forth. You're not going to waffle back and forth. You're just not. And if Mike LaFleur came in, he's like, hey, I want Kyler. I want him to stay. He would have said, yeah, Kyler's going to be the quarterback in 2026. Oh, gasp, whatever. It doesn't matter. They knew already. It's not a surprise to them. But the fact that he answered the way he did, I'm sure he was coached to do that. Michael Bidwell has a proclivity to not letting people say what they think, and I'm not saying in that instance. I'm saying that was the right thing to do. If Kyler Murray was going to be the quarterback in 2026, we'd know. So I've gotten some texts, some DMs and stuff, backlash about like, well, they didn't ask about Kyler. They didn't ask about Kyler enough. Why didn't they ask about Kyler enough? And I was like, listen, man, that's not what this is. That's not what this is for. This is to introduce the head coach, allow him to give his opening remarks, and get off the stage. Answer some light questions and go. There's going to be plenty of time to get deeper into Kyler Murray's future with his team and what it'll look like to move off from him. If they're going to eat money, if they're going to be able to find a spot where he can restructure there and add some years, what the Cardinals going to do with the dead cap hit that's only about $13 million more than if he were on the roster in 2026. Well, if it's only $13 million, why don't you just keep him? I think it's time. That's a conversation for a different day. But when it comes to overall how Mike LaFleur handled himself, how he positioned himself for the future, and how excited he looked to be a head coach and be ready to rip with this team, not just be a head coach, but ready to rip with this team, you can't help but be excited. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.